The story begins with Ash and X running and betting. If X kill more than the Ash, he'll tell him the secret behind his palm. The guy was trusted this time, saying he'll show him his dope lethal skill, to what the Ash answered he'll look forward to see it and that they'll see if he can stop his undefeated streak of 299 victories. They keep running until they run into a dire wolf, level 15, a beast that resides in the forest of venom and monsters, hunts in groups and has the tendency to dig dens to keep their pups safe from enemies. Ash got ready to attack and with a quick movement inserted his dagger on its stomach, making the beast scream. Then, more of them came to them, so X got ready to confront all of them, preparing his treasure attack. But it didn't work because one of the wolves started to bite his weapon, making the treasures inside it fall out. When Ash saw this, he rebuked him for using their treasure like that and letting the wolves taking all of it. But X wouldn't let them go so easily. He'll teach them how to steal. He threw against them and with a quick attack he took his teeth and claws, but remembering the bet he stopped playing and prepared to kill them all with his new technique, the X-slash. He killed 3 at once and then turned to see if Ash had seen his great abilities, but while he was fooling around, he had already killed 6 and, making things worse, when X tried to complain about it, Ash killed another one that was behind him. So, it's 7-3. They got home right on time for dinner and they showed all the meat and fortune they made to Anne and Moose. While X was showing all the treasures to the little girl, Ash was talking with the older one and telling him how hard X worked, so hard he almost got caught for some man. The girl got worried and reminded him she didn't want them to go overboard, but Ash said it was because their promise. Because that kid promised to do everything to provide them a warm home for winter. While they were eating, since Anne's food was delicious, they started planning to buy a house on the village where they'll open a restaurant, and they'll live on the 2nd floor. So they should work hard to get enough money to achieve their goal, but Ash cut X's dream out when he said they should stop stealing. He heard a house costs about 300 gold and that, with all X stole that day, they'll probably have over 300 already. X got excited with the news. They'll get out of there tomorrow and that will be their last meal in the forest. The scene changes and we're introduced to the vice captain of Azure Knights, called Farlan Den, who's talking her captain, Full Moon Ryu. She can't believe he wanted to take someone who's not a noble as a candidate for Ragnar, and that if he didn't find any candidate this year he'll lose his position. But he answered he didn't care. He hated to recommend those nobility more than getting fired. He just wanted to give a little kick to those nobles. Nothing more. She still couldn't understand but changed the subject and asked if he retrieved the dungeon stone. And he answered he went to the patrol to get it himself, but when he looked to show it to her, it was missing. He started thinking about what could have happened and remembered a kid he ran into who was stealing. But it wasn't possible for a simple kid to steal from the captain of the Azure Knights. Things were getting interesting. He used his skills to find where it was and found out it was on the northern forest, the forest of venom and darkness, filled with poisonous plants and high-level beasts, where not even soldiers dare to go. If those kids manage to make a home out of that, for sure there's something. So the captain will look for them and for the treasure. We're back with the protagonists and see they're talking about how weird it feels to know they'll leave their home tomorrow. X said he thought Ash would be dead by now since he found him buried under the ashes 5 years ago. He seemed dense. He said that the most dense there was him, since X didn't even know how to read. But after that, he thanked because, if it wasn't because X would always go out to steal, risking his life, they couldn't make it. But their good moment is interrupted when they heard the sound of one of their traps, alerting them about an intruder in the forest. And then the second trap. The intruder was going way too fast. Seeing this, X wondered if maybe it was that man, the owner of the blue jewel he stole. And since he looked like a soldier, they decided to wake up the girls and leave the place immediately. They took everything and started running, but when they were about to get out of the forest, a creature called Thornbush almost caught Moss and Anne, and when Ash saved them accidentally let the treasure fall down. And making things worse, to get them all, but then they got surrounded by at least 50 wolves. They didn't remember what their record was, but for sure they'll set a new one that day. Even Moose and Anne started fighting, but it wasn't enough. No matter how fast they were, it seemed like they wouldn't make it, but they did. Not even remembering who killed more or less, they faster tried to take their treasure back. When Ash saw the blue jewel and how bright it was, he wondered if there was something special about it. He was so mired into his thoughts he didn't notice there was a wolf behind him, but luckily for him X saw it right on time, saving him. But the price was hurting his arm. He could still fight as long as he didn't take another blow, but he didn't count with the double attack the wolf would throw against him. It turned out it was a dare wolf of level 44, created with demonic power, a boss monster. He could barely move now and insisted they should leave him there, but of course they wouldn't. On the other hand, the wolf seemed to be looking for something. Maybe the jewel. Then a system showed to X, communicating different messages. Hidden quest has been activated. Dormant feature at the crossroads of death will be activated. Feature will be released once you overcome and survive the test. When he heard all of this, he thought his time had come. On the other hand, Ash decided to use his best ability to save him. He had used it to save X once and got a coma for a week, so it'll be dangerous, but worth it. Mito, another one of them, ordered him to keep it as a secret and to never use it again. But he wasn't around anymore, they couldn't even take his grave with them. When Ash started using his power, the system showed to Ash and X saying, X's fatal injury will be recovered through effect. Goal: risk your life to save your comrade and survive. Success: all requirements have been fulfilled. Feature will be activated. Ash wondered where that voice came from and X, quickly recovered, asked Ash how he managed to keep his hands secret for so long and if he was good to keep fighting. They will defeat that beast. X had learned a new technique near to his dead and asked Ash to grab the monster's attention to him so he could steal it from it. Ash didn't understand what he meant by stealing, but he would do it anyway. They prepared to attack and, knowing the beast was after the jewel, he threw it to distract it, and while that, he'll land a punch in its vital point. But it didn't went as expected, because it was stronger than he thought. He could barely leave a stretch on it and his dagger broke. Meanwhile, X managed to steal the beast's skills. Steal skill will be used on double head. Skill activation successful. You have stolen double head's skill. Skill has been stolen by X. Double heads was stolen and can no longer be used. Now, with the monster's skills, X was ready to destroy it. While he was fighting, he felt like someone was teaching him how to fight on his head. Passive skill activated. Close proximity will hit the mark twice. And with a final blow he destroyed the beast and told Ash that, this time, he won, who proudly accepted his defeat. They could finally leave. They only had to follow the path straight up the river once they got to the road, and they'll get to their new home. But someone waited for them outside. It was the legendary keeper of the forest, a honed bear of level 60 that had mana building up inside his forehead for ages. While they saw their new enemy, the blue jewel started lighting up and, seeing it, the beast said it belonged to them and humans shouldn't have it. Ash asked X if he could do the same of before with the bear, and obviously he could, but they got interrupted by a man saying he'll deal with them after taking care with the bear. The beast sent its subordinates against the knight and no one expected what happened. He took all of them down in a single swing. He will now take care of the kids. X asked him for forgiveness, seeing he was a knight, and said he'll take whatever punishment, but he should let the others leave to the village because they deserved it. The scene suddenly changed and X and Ash woke up on a room with the knight in front of them. They desperate asked where Moose and Anne were, but the knight didn't answer. He had something more important to tell them. They'll become knights. They asked again where the girls were and the knight said he could only save the two of them. What made X furious and started saying it wasn't possible he couldn't save them, and looking at his mana, he saw it was clear, but with a powerful discharge. But when X was about to attack him, Den got into the room and told the captain to stop lying. It turns out he only wanted to taste them. Ash, instead, knew he was lying because it wasn't possible that a soldier like that couldn't save two children. So cautiously he asked why them if only nobles can become knights, and the captain offered them to talk calmly about it outside. Once out he introduced himself and Den as the captain and vice captain of the Azure Knights, and also Kenta, the errand boy. After X and Ash also introduced themselves, the captain explained that knights fight against demons in order to protect humanity, and that, to become one, children over the age of 14 must pass the entrance test, Ragnar, and then they have a variety of training as a squire to become a true knight. A captain has to choose, every year, a candidate to become a Ragnar, and he wanted them to be his candidates. X couldn't understand why he wanted him if he stole his jewel, and that was it. He managed to steal the jewel from a captain of the knights. What means he has an exceptional skill, wasted in wrong ways. He should use it to save the world. X got all in seeing how great the opportunity was, but Ash wasn't sure because, what would Anne and Moose do? But the captain said they could be a part of the chief school, and, if they had good grades, they could even become chefs of the castle. Also, he offered something pretty attracted to Ash. He could learn about his past and know why his hand was like that at the knight's library, since he lost his memory a long time ago. Also, he showed them how much power they'll have knights, the power to change the world. We see that now they're all eating Anne's food and X asked when they're going to start the training. Yes, they accepted. He said as long as he recovered from the mana he lost getting the dungeon stone back, they'll go to the main base. X asked what that stone was and Den explained it's a spell device that causes a dungeon beak. What is? Amplifies a human's or monster's mana, a holy item that belonged to the second and fourth gods. After explaining that, their pleased dinner is interrupted when they feel the presence of a demon that, probably, felt the captain's mana that was connected to the jewel. The captain sent Den to set the barrier around the entire village and Kenta to help the villagers evacuate. The demon was Les Zerka, creator of demonic swordsmanship, a high-ranked demon of level 99, who fought against the captain before getting a terrible scar. They started fighting but the captain couldn't use his power as the demon with the kids around because they'll probably get hurt. So after sending Kenta to take them away, the real battle began. The demon threw a third form of demonic swordsmanship and the captain, somehow, managed to defend himself from such attack. The demon thought he was weak because of his chivalry and humanity, but that was actually what made him so strong. Kenta arrived to tell his captain everyone had evacuated. He could now give it all against the demon, so he prepared to give the full moon single sword slash attack while his enemy prepared to counterattack, with a technique also very powerful. That was the start of an epic fight. Like a great dance, they started fighting, every time with more grace and power. But the knight was actually struggling to keep it up because, in order to make time so everyone could escape, he had taken the first demon's attack head-on, what hurt him a lot. Meanwhile, the demon's subordinates started attacking the people around. Den explained to the protagonists the demons are called titles and that they're stronger than any beasts they fought on the forest, since they have the skill to hatch. So you can't let them proliferate or they'll never end. After this, she gave them swords, saying they'll do everything for them, and directions to take the people out of the village. They will have to protect all those people by themselves. When the monsters came to them, the swords moved by their own and it could even talk to them. It explained everything about the demon they were confronting and it gave them magic saying that, without it, they could never make it. Their sword was actually called Ego Sword of Knowledge and was used for students to learn how to fight. When it saw they didn't know any procedure, the sword thought they were fools, but, trusting Den, it will give them directions to fight. The fight, again, insisted them to open the skill window so it could enchant them to grant the regeneration block. And that way it'll be easier to defeat the demons. But the thing is, they needed to use mana to open it, and they didn't even know what mana was, so they were kind of screwed. But Ash focused and, somehow he managed to open it. What amazed the sword that saw all the great abilities and talents he had. Once it enchanted his sword, the demons were a piece of cake, so he went right at them to kill them all, trusted he could handle it by his own. But he didn't count with the monster's attributes. They could create traps using their specialties, so, if he's too full, he could die. And that's what happened. Poison seeped out of the monster's corpse, and it increased as the corpses piled up. And when he was falling, a demon hiding under the ground came out to catch him. He couldn't move because was paralyzed for the poison, but when the demon was about to eat him to get stronger, X suddenly appeared to save him. X cut the demon's arm off and said he'll take care of it, to what Ash answered he could have it because he felt generous that day, grabbing. Of course X will start complaining about his attitude and, when the monster saw they were ignoring it, got furious and prepared to give them a lesson. It regenerated and used its Earth Strike skill, and once he attacked the boys were gone, so it thought they'd been crushed. But they came out of nowhere and counterattacked, surprising the monster. They kept attacking and X got ready to give the final blow. With a double attack, he ended it. Once the monster was killed, the system showed to them they had leveled up and, seeing they didn't understand what that was yet, the sword explained it to them. Also, X stole the monster's ability, so now he could burrow. But the teaching time was interrupted when the captain arrived, followed by the demon. That knew he wasn't fighting as powerful as he could because what he wanted was to make time so everyone could escape. So the monster decided to take care of them to have all the captain's attention. On the other hand, Den and Kenta took down the titles, but some guys appeared and stepped in with a request from Les Zerka. The demon, they would not let her go. Back to the mean battle. When Les Zerka went against the villagers, the captain stepped in to take the blow, in order to protect them. Very hurt, he ordered Ash and X to take the villagers away, and tried to make the demon focus on him. They got to a forest and the sword told them they all will be safe there because of the protector barrier he made. But Ash and X wouldn't just stay there while their master was in danger. Leaving the villagers safe, they went back to the battlefield to help their captain. Besides the sword's complaints, the captain was still fighting, but weak, so he couldn't waste more time or his life will be on danger. But his injuries were worse than he thought, making his movements slow, and seeing this, the demon attacked with fury. But some kid appeared and caught his attention. Les Zerka prepared to attack and put him on his place, but he didn't count with this. He wasn't there to attack yet, but to steal its abilities. The demon couldn't believe a kid stole his stat and felt humiliated. It will show to that insect to respect it. Ash showed to the demon saying he was not an insect, and the captain joined them saying he'll show them how a knight gets down. The scene changes to where Den is fighting and we see she felt the captain realizing the knight's stone. He will fight with all his might, exactly what Les Zerka wanted. We see the man who was fighting with Kenta and Den was called the seventh one. But we'll see what that means later on the story. Back to our hero. We can see how excited the demon is seeing the captain finally used his mighty power invocating some kind of dragon, and holding the Azurus sword, a sword that could cut down anything, and in fact, it easily cut the demon's swords made of onyx. The real fight will start now. On an epic fight, the captain went cutting every single one of the demon's swords, and when there was only one sword left, he prepared to give the final blow with a single sword slash. But he was interrupted when the seventh got in the way, protecting the demon with the excuse he had some important thing to do. And against its will, they took the demon away from there. The captain saw how the seventh did a teleportation magic, feeling there was something wrong with him. But his thoughts were interrupted when the boys and also Kenta and Den came at him, asking if he was okay. When they got back to the village, the villagers thanked the captain for saving them. But he said who saved them were the boys, X and Ash. The people thanked them. It was true, they were their heroes, making the boys realize it wasn't a bad feeling to save people, and also, if they could protect people with their hands, if they could protect the world, they could change the world. Being a hero wasn't so bad, right? Some days passed and we see the kids are getting ready to leave the castle to become knights. They said goodbye to Anne and Moose, who will stay to become professional chefs, and after getting on the birds where they'll fly on to travel, they left. After a while flying, the birds suddenly went down. They had arrived to the entrance of the test. Since it was a forest, they thought they may be on the wrong place, but then the golem of the truth showed and told them he was the guide to Ragnar, and that the test site was behind him, at the end of the path of adversity. In order to pass it, they had to answer his question. Why do you want to become knights? When they answered they wanted to become captain knights to change the world, the golem saw they were sincere, and like that, they passed the first test. Lastly, they had to show him the proof of who nominated them to pass the path, and he was amazed when they showed him the deep Azurus jewel, realizing they were Ryu candidates. Once they passed the path, a lot of beasts attacked them, but the real challenge will be the leader of the area, a bear twice as big as any other one. But when they were fighting it, someone threw an arrow and instantly killed it. It was a girl who overheard the conversation with the golem and wondered whether they were actually Ryu's candidates or not. When X saw she looked like an elf, he was amazed for her existence and she got mad because he treated her like she was some kind of animal, so started throwing a lot of arrows against him. But a dude showed out of nowhere and saved him. He introduced himself as my Karen, the hero of Karen Kingdom, and explained they were curious about Ryu's candidates, but there weren't evil intentions when they followed them. And when he asked for their family, Ash lost his patience and said that, if he wanted to match with them and to know their name, he should stop babbling and pick up his sword. The scene goes to Ryu and a new character, the captain of the Emerald Knights. He went there to help him repair the city damages with magic spirits, and also to talk about the candidates to Ragnar, asking why he chose those kids if he hadn't choose anyone after that guy. Also, he mentioned Mai from the royalty was quite furious for not being chose for him, a child that received the strongest genes from Gru Karen and who had great skills. He was even called the hero of 100 weapons. And after this introduction of X and Ash enemy, we go back to the battle. The kids realized he was very strong, his movements were fast and his technique great. Ash tried to guess his next attack and assumed he'll go for his left side, but he suddenly disappeared and attacked from above. He held Ash's head with his knees and let him on the floor. X joined the scene and, furious, attacked him, but Mayu easily dodged the blow and then landed a fatal blow on his vital point. But X's system skills helped him resist the blow, and also, he had stolen his belt when he acted like he was attacking. Pretty smart. So when Mayu ran against him again, his pants fall down and X took the chance and punched his face. Mayu offended for fighting cheating and demanded him to fight fair and square. But when he turned, X was gone. He was attacking him from behind. What forced Mayu to use his skill. Arms grew from his back and took X's leg to avoid the blow landed. The real fight will begin. Mayu started attacking even faster than before, and X could barely dodge him. He will now bury him on the ground, just like he did with Ash, but X used the ability he stole from the monster to dig a hole and burrow into the ground, and then he grabbed him down and tried to bury him. Mayu blocked the blow with his back's arms, but X countered with that, so he had prepared a double attack. But Mayu managed to get away from it. He was amazed with X's skills as he was fighting with a monster. They were preparing to keep fighting, but then they felt a reverberation, like it was an earthquake. But it was actually a mountain moving. The mountain was alive. The mountain started talking to them, saying they should let the fight for later since none of them had entered the Ragnar test side yet. It was the golem from earlier. He explained the portal to the knight's territory had been opened on the peak of the mountain, and that even though the preliminary tests in other regions were finished, because of their remarkable skills, he adjusted the level of their test a little. They had 10 minutes to get to the peak of the mountain, with guardian golems and monsters blocking their way. A giant appeared and X, trusted, quickly went against him. Besides, Ash complains. Once he attacked him, the giant caught him with some things that came up from his body. The elf girl freed him with her arrow. He thanked her and she said she did only because, as a knight, she couldn't watch someone die just like that. She explained that if you go near that monster, he'll seize you and absorb your energy until you die. Mayu told her to stop wasting time and they prepared to get into the portal, using the wind spirit that will make them float. And before they leave, he recommended them to go home because, once the real fight started, they'll face monster 10 times stronger than these. They were alone now, with no knowledge about magic or about these golems, and they had to get to the peak of the mountain. Let's see how they make it. Ash, such as a veteran, deduced the golems were made out of ground, so when one of them was about to attack X, he asked him to use the burrowing skill on the golem. And it worked. It was wipe out immediately. X thought Ash wanted him to use the ability to destroy them all, but he had something else in mind. The nobles were about to get to the portal, but they started feeling a reverberation at great power, and then X and Ash came out of the ground. Somehow they managed to get to the portal before them. Ash saw some wolf babies near the mountain, so he knew there'll be dens all inside the mountains, since the wolves did those to hide the food and to protect their babies. He had walked inside them a lot when he was a kid. Therefore, he asked X to burrow through the walls from one den to another and pave a way to the shortest path. Ash had been born with a nature that can sense mana, so he managed to feel the mana emitted from the portal to guide X because the distance was big. X ran out of strength a few times, but Ash used the power of his slime to recover all his energy. And like that, they won against those who used a haste, and passed the test first. Once X got to the portal, he was alone, and a light talked to him, congratulating him for having now the title of a squire. Yes, he was now officially a knight. The light gave a gift for him. He received an inventory skill. With that he'll be able to save his owns. And the second gift was a knight's gacha. We'll know what it is for later on the story. X asked who the light was, but, ignoring the question, he talked to both X and Ash. He said to Ash he'll learn more about his past as he walked to the path of a knight. He got desperate and asked who he was, and who the man he dreamed about every night was, but it wasn't time to know about this yet. The light said it hoped to meet them later on their journey, then took them out of the portal. They were now on the land of knights. A little thing showed to them and introduced as Hosik Nyong, a Hohoyan who'll guide and protect them. The first thing Ash asked is what the light was, and Hosik explained is Chivalry Nyong, the will of the world's guardian itself, the core of immense power that exists since the start of the knightage. By borrowing the mana retained in the chivalry, the knights can produce great power. And then the Hohoyan took them to where the first test will begin. Once there, they saw the captains from all the teams, and Ryu started giving them indications. The first step will be to open the box they received earlier, to take out their personalized knight weapon. They distributed the keys, and the order of the distribution will be based on the abilities of every single one of them. To become a knight will take 4 tests, each one of them taken for the captains of the Simpson, Gold, Emerald, and Azure Knights. The candidates who get a high score will receive the Knight's Pendant, which grants access to the usage of power from chivalry, receive the title of a knight, and granted the ability to choose which knightage they'd like to join. Later, they can start their knightage as an intermediate knight, which is a rank higher than their classmates. During Ragnar, they won't be able to use their own weapons. They had to complete the test using the squire's weapon they received earlier. They'll get their personalized knight weapon that's based on their individual skills. As said before, the first person who will open the box will be decided based on their abilities, and that person will decide the order of distribution. When Ryu sent the key away, everyone ran to get it. X was fast enough to get it first, but a boy came out of nowhere and threw electricity against him and took the key. That boy went to give it to a princess, and X planned to take the opportunity to take the key back again, but the girl defended herself with some kind of fire that let him almost pass out. Anyway, this whole thing is to introduce a lot of the candidates such as their abilities, and also, we get to know Ryu's brother, who's also a candidate. The thing is that while all the nobles and the princess were about to fight, the princess hadn't noticed someone had stolen the key, and only realized it when he saw X looking at his weapon. So now he could decide the order of distribution, but he didn't care about that and said everyone could have their keys right away. Because X has the attributes of a thief, he received a dagger, but why Ash received a stone? Not even the Captain Ryu knew why, but anyway, he'll only be able to fight with that, a stone. Once everyone got their weapons, the first test will begin, the mind. Edward Dune Lavender, the captain of the Crimson Knights, will be the examiner. She explained that mind will take place with 4-person parties and each party will be chosen at random, based on the roles assigned by chivalry. They will have to head to the Knights' defense zones throughout the continent and carry out the quest given by the supervisor. And the first party to finish the quest will receive bonus points. Everyone opened the box and received a magic stone that stored warp magic, and once they activated the stone they'll be warped to the test site. Once X got the test site, he saw he ended up on the same team as the jerk princess, and of course, as soon as they saw each other they started arguing. The other 2 members tried to calm them down with no success. Then, they saw a tent and got in there, where a supervisor was reading something that looked like a manga and, very lazy, she created the quest for them. They will have to hunt 100 goblins near the camp. The supervisor wanted to keep reading, and hated being bothered on the meantime, so she got mad for all their questions and gave them a penalty. Now they'll have to hunt 120 goblins. With a scene change, we see Ash is directing his team to kill the goblins. One of the members of his party took them to an end part of the forest, against a mountain. And when a big amount of goblins went after him, he used his magic engineering skill and some kind of robot emerged, big enough to kill a dozen of them at once. But the goblins were smarter than he thought and realized the trick, and mad, went to attack directly Ash. Ryu's younger brother, who was on Ash's team, took his sword and killed a dozen of them at once. They ended up falling for his trick. Tesla, the one who made the robot, thanked Ash for his great plan. But Ash said it was all because of them. Tesla had made a weapon for him with his magic. Zen, Ryu's brother, could kill a dozen with a single blow, and another member, Kira, trusted and backed the plan. They only needed to kill one more to finish, and Tesla offered to find it with Fella, a flying object with a camera. But he was interrupted when he received an unexpected blow from a Cyclops, which shouldn't be there in the first place. We're back with X's team and see how X is bumbling about killing 6 at once. So distracted a goblin on his back almost kill him. Thank God the princess was there to rescue him and, also, humiliate him a little. One of the members started getting worried about their situation, saying they were behind the other parties and, if they kept like that, they wouldn't make it. But the princess wouldn't let that happen. Not with her on the team. She showed the royalty power with her spirit magic fire floor skill, an amazing power that almost instantly killed 119 goblins. Now there was only one left. We see that the supervisor isn't surprised for their progress, and explains that the last goblins to kill polymorphs into a Cyclops and appears before the candidates. The real hidden test is in the action the candidates take, and how they overcome the hardship. But something happened, and what showed to X's team wasn't a fake Cyclops, but a real one. They were now on serious danger. That wasn't a beast candidates like them could face. Not even high-ranked knights were a serious match for it. X asked the princess how much time she needed to recover her mana to use her power again. He'll have 10 minutes to distract the monster until she was ready to use her power again. On the other hand, Ash's team is taking good care of the Cyclops. With Tesla's robots and Zen abilities it was an easy tread. However, Tesla was too hurt, so Ash used half of his strength on his slime to heal him. If he used more he'll lose consciousness, so he'll better be careful now. Zen was also hurt, but since he couldn't use more energy, they decided to go notify about their situation to the supervisor. But the Cyclops wouldn't let them go so easily. He was mad and furious and would take revenge for the arm they took off of him. Tesla offered to distract him with his robots, and letting him blind, they took the chance to run away. But the Cyclops had eaten the objects and was now throwing them as fire to them, and running after them as well. So Ash didn't have another choice. He would heal Zen, since he was the one with best attack technique, but he couldn't. A fire from the Cyclops got him and burned him. It'll burn him to die. He asked his colleagues not to wait, to go get the supervisor. And as he thought about his bet with X, he felt his death closer and closer. System, pausing time. Time stopped and an unknown person all in black came at him, and it seemed as he took all of his energy to regenerate it. Forced awakening. Skill, summon slime has been acquired. Ash suddenly woke up, better than ever, and saw his colleagues didn't let them, but were confronting the Cyclops and trying to save him. He used his slime to heal them completely and prepared to attack, with the Cyclops fire because, yes, he had stolen it from him. All the team attacked him, but even on his condition he managed to dodge everything. probably because it was a high-ranked monster. It turned out this wasn't a fake Cyclops as well, as you probably realized already. As the Cyclops ran on his legs bones to them, Ash came out with a plan. He asked Tesla to fly his Model E to him. He didn't understand what he planned, but trusting him, threw the last one at him. Ash put the fire on it and threw it against the Cyclops. It was a double fake and he fall on it. The Cyclops' head was cut in half and Ash asked his colleagues to go to his legs. The monster heard him and prepared to defense, but got distracted with some fires Ash sent, and when his neck was cut, he realized it was all a trick. Meanwhile, X still hadn't took care of their Cyclops. Their only hope was the princess, but they still have to wait for her mana to recover. The other two members were too scared to move, so it was now all on X's. X tried to distract the monster, but this one wasn't a fool. He had seen the princess's magic and knew their plan, so he threw an attack at her and Side was the one who could block it. But he was too scared to move. So X went there and blocked it himself, and also said to him not to be scared, what brought at him memories of his mother dying, telling him he was strong. This reminded him the reason why he wanted to become a knight on the first place, and seeing this, the other member also stood up. This member used his herbs to increase 15% their strength. Side threw a root navigator skill and some kind of plant came out of the ground and immobilized the Cyclops' arm. Then he made the plant grow more and more, rising the beast up. That was Side's duel. The Cyclops got furious seeing the humans thought they were enough for him, and used his fire to broke Side's duel. But he didn't count with X, who climbed the plant to get above him and stole his ability. Side and X started attacking him, making a priority to buy time for the princess to recover. They were doing well until the Cyclops started using psychological tactic on them. Side tried to use his duel to block his attacks, but it'll be hard to do it. Thank God, X's strength stat increased twofold and punched his intimate parts. You know how much that hurts. X made fun of him, but his laugh was interrupted when the princess asked him to move aside. She was ready to end this. Preparing an ancient magic holy spear, his attack landed on his eye, destroying him immediately. By the time the supervisor got there, the Cyclops had only the lower half of his body. She couldn't do anything else but congratulate them for passing the first test of mind. But suddenly, the Cyclops' head exploded, and if it wasn't because Maria, the supervisor, saved the princess, she would have been dead now. That was intent for someone. After that, she sent them to use the portal to go back to the sanctuary and to wait there. We see someone, at another place, is complaining because they couldn't kill the princess, so they wasted the Cyclops for nothing. But, who seemed to be the boss, said that was only the first step.